So, Christians, realize something. Everything you've been told about the book of Revelations, from worrying about the mark of the beast, from it's going to be the worst time that you ever go through, to you're going to be raptured, all of that is not true. And you don't even need to worry about any of it. Because, and this is why they never wanted to focus on the letter to the Church of Philadelphia of America. Because literally it tells that church, God says himself, no, I'm going to be your guardian. The rest of the world will face a trial. You will not. You will be covered. And that means even, Christians that aren't in America, they would be covered too, any Christians. But because that letter, this is why so many people wanted to lead you astray, America. Really, this is why, because this is why Jesus said if he grafts the Gentiles in, it's going to make the Jews jealous. And I think his hope was it'll make them jealous and then they'll come to see the light. And maybe some have. There's 1 million in the world that recognize Jesus as the Messiah, but there's a lot that don't. And I think they truly think that they're somehow going to tell God that, well, we didn't know. And God would say, no, you should have known who Jesus was. But the Gentiles knew. And that's what we are, is so understand something. The one thing, that's why they never wanted to talk about the letter to the Church of Philadelphia of America, because if you read that, you're covered. You don't have to worry about a mark. You don't have to worry about any of the beasts. You don't have to worry about any of it, because literally God says, I'm going to be covering you. You're not even going to go through it. That's how happy I am with you. So nobody needs to worry about any of that. You don't even need to, it's not going to happen. But likely most people, because they've been so indoctrinated. Because I remember 20 years ago, these people pushing all this third temple and the red heifers, and yet again, nowhere in the book of Revelations is abomination of desolation mentioned. Nowhere is third temple mentioned. Nowhere is rapture mentioned. They literally brought the rapture in like 20 years ago. Kirk Cameron brought it in, with the Left Behind book series, and I remember reading those, and then there was the movies, and so it was really indoctrinating people into this rapture, and it's bullshit. It is. I've always thought it is, because if all the other saints, all the other had to go through their tribulations, you're going to too. And then yet the evangelicals make this excuse and say, well, no, that's going to be a worse tribulation, so we'll be taken up out of here. And where do they get that from? The book of Daniel, Old Testament. So it's not true. It's not. But it's not true for this reason too, because if you truly are a Christian, then read the letter that is to Philadelphia, America, because that's who it's to, and you will see that God says, no, I'm going to, the rest of the world's going to have a trial. You're not going to. So you don't have to worry about, you're not going to be raptured, because God's going to be protecting you. Even if you're not in America, God will be protecting the Christians. That's what I've always thought would happen during tribulation anyway. But the fact is, you won't even have to suffer it, because God is going to literally be your guardian over it. And it's not going to be that long anyway. I mean, that it goes on. It's to test it's to give the last chance to the others. But you don't have to worry. In order for there to be a rapture, again, they take you back to Daniel. They're literally, deliberately trying to lead Americans astray, because they did not want Americans to know the importance of your destiny for this country. They didn't want you to know. Because everything they taught, first of all, isn't there. All these end time prophets, it isn't. I already said all the stuff that's not in it. And they always have to go back to Daniel. It's the perfect way of leading people astray. It's horrible. And then some of those people, they just believe it. That's why what's sad is I don't think many of those people will snap out of that, because it's that indoctrination and brainwashing. And then your evangelicals all push that rapture stuff. I mean, I liked a lot of, what's the popular evangelical guy's name? John MacArthur. I used to like listening to him, but then when he talked about the rapture, that never sat well with me, and I've gotten in fights with people about it. I'm like, it's not true, and it was only something that started being pushed 20 years ago. And I'm not saying people maybe, all have bad intentions, but they're clearly not going to the Holy Spirit, right? Because again, when you have to continually read Revelations and then we have to go back to Daniel, and that's what they always do, you should turn them off. They are totally misguided, and because it's the blind leading the blind, because many of them went to the same seminary school that taught that crap, they're just leading everybody else, because there's literally nothing Christians need to worry about. You do not need to worry and be on the lookout for the mark. You don't need to worry about the beast, because God literally says he will be your guardian. Actually, in the Jewish text, the way they have it is that God is the guardian. But God said in the other versions of the Bible, it says, I'm going to cover you. You're not going to go through the trial. That's how happy I am with you for not denying my name and for staying, for having patient endurance. But even the other 6 churches, they're going to have to go through a trial, because it was only the Church of Philadelphia, of America, I'm going to keep saying that, of America, that there was no issues. With every other church, God says, but I have this issue. But I have this issue. And so clean yourself up, because they will have to go through a trial, along with those that are not Christians. So all these years, and I've seen people worrying about, the rapture and the beast. And you just get to get the popcorn out and just watch the show, because there's nothing that can get to you when God's protecting you. So you're not going to be raptured, but you're not going to have to worry about any mark either. It's never going to come to pass for you. I believe, as I said before, though, I think it kind of already took place. I think it took place with the money system, with the apostles. But regardless, even if it didn't, if you are a Christian that believes Jesus was the Messiah, you absolutely do not have to worry about it, because God's got you covered. Because there is I don't care what the end time prophets say. Please, if you have questions or they try to debunk anything I'm saying, I'd go live with any of them and debate them, because there's absolute proof that book in Revelations, that letter is to Philadelphia in America. And I already explained why. We have the biggest country of Christians that hasn't fallen away. It's fallen away a little, but it hasn't fallen away so much to where any other countries has surpassed us. No, we're still way in the lead. So we've been true. We haven't denied his name. And yet it doesn't make sense to say it's that's not leaning on the Spirit to understand that, no, there's no way that letter to Philadelphia is talking to the church in Asia Minor, because literally God says he's going to protect them and he didn't protect them. Not that they weren't a Christian church, but they fell, they were conquered, so it wouldn't line up with that church. And yet William Penn named Philadelphia, which was the birth of America, that was that term. He took it as from that church, that it would be an heir. So it's talking about Philadelphia, America, which means since God says you're covered, there is nothing you have to worry about. The rest of that book, you can just be like, yeah, well, that doesn't apply to me. Doesn't, because God says because of your dedication and loyalty, he will protect you. So I know many will still want to believe the old time prophets, or this will just be a suppressed video, unfortunately, but I guarantee you there's no way to refute what I'm saying. There isn't. Absolutely not. You have every other Middle East named church there, and then it's Church of Philadelphia, because it was talking about Philadelphia, America. If you're a Christian and you believe Jesus is the Messiah, you don't even have to worry about nothing else in the book of Revelations, because you're covered. You get to just watch the show.